A glistening ray of moonlight eked through the clouds amidst a backdrop of scattered stars. Sanan and I shared little conversation as we made our return to Kama Inn, seeing as we had been too occupied reading through more stacks of documents. Our first method of verifying the document's truth was following the medicine's recipe as closely as possible. And it's done. I held the finished concoction in my hand nervously, wiping my sweaty forehead with the back of my other forearm. Well, I guess there's no way of knowing if it works or not without a test subject in front of us, but if someone happens to suffer a bout of bloodlust in the near future, hopefully it'll help in some way.
とりあえずはこれを使ってみましょう。ですが、家に残していたところを見ると、おそらくこの研究は行動さんにとっては重要度が低い。本当に重要な情報はおそらく彼の頭の中。できれば彼と接触したいところですね。
My problem with this logic is you guys are on completely different sides of the field, and I doubt he'd tell you anything. I agree, but ever since... Thanks, phone, for telling me about the phone bill being paid. I agree, but ever since Toba Fushimi, I haven't had any communication with him, let alone seen him. To tell you the truth, I've got no idea where he is.
ですが、また君を狙ってくる可能性は非常に高い。だから今後は十分に気をつけて。
And it's time for round one yet again. Sanan-san, what's the matter? Oh no. Sanan-san began stuttering, clutching his chest in pain. His voice became scratchy and staggered. I watched in horror as the color of his eyes flickered. There could be no mistaking what I was witnessing. He was experiencing a bout of bloodlust. I should give him blood. My first inclination was to hand Sanan-san the medicine we had just produced, but would offering him an untested batch of medicine really do him any good in his desperate state? I could spare no more seconds of hesitation. My mind was frantic, reaching out of reflex. Reacting out of reflex, not reaching. Hold on! I hastily unsheathed my kodachi, sliding the blade's honed edge against my wrist before timidly stretching the bloody limb out towards Sanan-san. I gasped, watching Sanan-san's eyes widen at the sight of blood dripping viscously from the fresh cut.
何の真似ですか?
You mentioned that blood is the only true way to mitigate your bloodlust, right? Please, take my blood. He could tolerate his insatiable cravings no longer. Sanan-san's face warped in agony, and he suddenly lunged his face towards to lick my oozing wound. A dull pain pinched my arm where Sanan-san was licking. It didn't hurt, though. In fact, it was almost soothing. I felt my back tighten as Sanan-san's tongue sipped mouthfuls of blood, as if he were afraid of wasting a single drop. And that part just ends like that. What the fuck? Also, Sanan-san, zero hesitation, unlike everybody else. Where's my water? Nearly a month had passed since our ship dropped its anchor in Edo's port. The Shinsengumi declared its intent to depart from... My brain. The Shinsengumi declared its intent to depart from Kama-in, moving its headquarters to a mansion owned by the city's Hatamoto, with its men in tow. The spiritual wound sustained from the defeat in Toba Fushimi lingered ominously, but thankfully we could take some joy in the progress of a new move. Luckily for us, our move coincided with the return of several of our injured warriors, whose recovery had cast a dark cloud over the fate of our organization. Our anticipation was hot for one individual in particular.
いや、みんなすまなかった。留守中は随分と苦労をかけたようだな。
So Dad's back! Please, don't worry. All that matters to us is that you're safe, Kondo-san. How is your shoulder?
もちろんだとも。と言いたいところだが、まだ刀を持つのにも苦労してな。
The chief of the Shinsengumi had returned. With him, a thundering bellow echoed throughout the halls of the new headquarters. Kondo-san gazed proudly around the hall, staring at each of the captains, including Heisuke and Sanan-san, who feigned smiles in response to Kondo-san. So I'm gonna guess at this point there's no point in keeping Heisuke and Sanan as a secret anymore, and that's why they're in this room. Because I'm assuming it's daytime. And if that's the case, then that means the rest of the Shinsengumi group knows absolutely what's going on. That's my theory, because it's never explained.
それにしても、みんな随分と様変わりしたじゃないか。どこの異国に迷い込んだかと思ったぞ。
I nodded with him politely, discreetly gazing out of my peripherals to the surprising sight beside us. Kondo-san had highlighted something peculiar. The opportunity for new horizons hadn't been limited to a mere change of scenery, as the Shinsengumi also forewent their usual attire. Unlike their traditional long flowing kimonos, they were adorned in tight, well-tailored clothing that had recently caught wind in European fashion.
鳥羽伏見の戦で俺たちの戦い方が古いもんだってのがはっきりした。
Does that also include fashion, Hijikata? Because this was your choice.
俺たちもここからは銃を主体とした西洋風の戦いになれる必要がある。服を改めたのはその第一歩だ。
今はまだ落ち着かないところもありますが、慣れれば問題はないかと。
Hijikata-san, Saito-san, and the rest of the soldiers were stretching their limbs playfully, basking in the novelty of wearing unconventional clothing. I think so far for this one, when they get their uniforms, the best person that has the best reaction is, as far as I've seen, is Nagakura. Because he just, it's just the best thing. He decides to flex, and that's just, he's being playful. I fucking love that reaction out of him because it's so Nagakura, but it's just the best reaction. Of all the gentlemen flexing in their new dapper attire, however, the one who stood out most was the Shinsengumi snake.
どうかしましたか、雪村君。
No reason at all.
それは残念ですね。てっきり私の姿に見惚れて黙り込んだのかと思いましたが。
It's not like that.
そうですか。では私の姿など全く気にもならないと。
No, I didn't mean anything by it. You look quite, dashing.
それは着替えた甲斐がありました。
Sanan-san possessed conversational tact. In this instance, it felt like a ploy to coax something out of me, unlike the way that Okita does it, which is just teasing the fuck out of you. Until he gets what he wants. Sanan suddenly has tact. This is why there's a soundboard somewhere in Discord where it's just me saying "fuck you, Okita," because that is a counter that we need. And it comes up too often. I have a love-hate relationship with Okita. That included. A groomed folded collar hung loosely around his slender neck. His outfit was sharp, accentuated by tastefully worn gloves underneath burgundy and gold jacket cuffs. Truly a uniform to contemplate his intellect.
服が変わって心機一転、各自気合が入っているのはいいことだ。よし、この勢いで甲府城を手に入れよう。
Kondo-san went quiet, glancing around the room sternly. Under shogunate command, the Shinsengumi was ordered to mobilize and march to Kofu Castle in order to ambush the occupying imperial army forces. As a gesture of good faith, the shogunate rewarded the Shinsengumi with tantalizing riches and recruits. However, the true token of generosity to ensure the Shinsengumi's loyalty was in the designation of title, status, and nomenclature to Kondo-san as a Hatamoto. If the campaign to take Kofu Castle was successful, then the fortress and holdings were there for Kondo-san's taking, which naturally bolstered his spirits.
近藤さん、そのことなんだが、金でかき集めた連中を引き連れて戦えって上の連中は本気で言ってんのか？
戦すること自体に文句はねえが、どうにも腑に落ちねえんだよな。
A portion of the captains, led by Harada, voiced their palpable discontent, which, given the circumstances, had some bearing in logic.
今の幕府上層部は武力衝突を避けたい標準派が幅を利かせているはずだ。それがここに来て出撃命令となると、いささか勘ぐりたくもなるぜ。
でも上からの命令なんだし、出撃しねえわけにはいかねえだろ。
ええ、幸い羅刹隊は無傷で戦意も高い。新政府軍に鳥羽伏見での戦いの借りを存分に返すとしましょ
いや待ってくれ三男さん。今回の戦では羅刹隊は使わねえ。三男さんや平助を含めて羅刹隊は今回江戸に残して、まあ雪村、当然お前もだ。
What? Oh, okay.
待ってください。敵の手強さは鳥羽伏見の戦で身をもって知ったはずです。あの時新選組は新型の武器に全く手が出ませんでした。ですが唯一渡り合えたのは羅刹隊です。その我々抜きでどうするというのですか。
今回は幕府から新型の銃や大砲ももらってる。それに新規の大使をかき集めて戦場へ向かうんだ。羅刹隊を隠すにも限度ってもん分かってくれ三男さん。
今回の戦いで我々は不要だということですか。
待って、サナさん。
詳しい話はまた後だ。今日のところはここまでとしよう。以上、解散。
I hadn't even waited for Kondo-san to finish dismissing the troops before I sprinted after Sanan-san. My eyes scanned the vicinity, seeing if the two of us were alone, and I called out to a visibly shaken Sanan-san. Sana...
雪村君、君も実に滑稽だとは思いませんか。この新選組のために羅刹となり、死者となっても刀を振るい続け、にもかかわらず必要とされる時に役に立つことすらできない私たちの身、滑稽どころかそれを通り越して 無様な話です。
But surely there's some explanation for why they would want the furry corpse to stay.
来ないでください。
As I extended my hand to rest upon Sanan-san's shoulder, he snapped at me coldly, flicking his hand. This would be a very good time for me to save! Before I lose anything else or the string crashes again.
お願いします。今のこの顔をあなたには見られたくありません。
Hold on one moment. Garnet, please do not be a toddler and crash again, I swear to God. There we go. A tumult plagued Sanan-san's restless heart. He had the will and talent to fight in battle, but against his control, he was caged in shadow. If a warrior couldn't prove his worth on the battlefield, then where? It was a humiliating blow. I searched within myself for a meaningful response. In the end, however, my mouth was agape with nothing to say, and we endured a bitter silence. I realized it was best to leave him be. As I spun to make my way back to the great hall, something stopped me from sliding the door open. I heard two voices in heated discussion from the other side of the door, and I gently pressed my ear against it to get a read of their conversation.
平介、お前も話ぐらいは聞いてると思う。今、江戸市中では辻斬り騒ぎが起きている。めった斬りにして血も残さないってやつだ。その辻斬りが始まったのは三男さんが巡察を始めた頃とぴったり重なっちまってる。
土方さんは三男さんを疑ってんのかよ。
そうは言ってねえ。だが三男さんを自由にしておけば怪しいと勘ぐるやつも出てくる。あの人のことを信じてるが万一ってこともある。だから平介、お前は江戸に残って三男さんの動きを監視してくれ。いざって時はお前の判断に任せる。
分かった。そのいざって時が来ないことを祈ってるけどな。
I couldn't stand to listen to another second. I cupped my hand over my mouth to keep from squealing, and I scurried away in panic. How could they? No, I refused to let myself entertain the notion. Even during our time in Kyo, Sanan-san had been continuously misunderstood. Not for 1 second had I believed that Sanan-san would be capable of such horrid and detestable acts. I reassured myself as I ran down the hall, holding my hand over my face to keep from crying. My mind evoked the image of Sanan-san toppling over in agony from his bloodlust, and I wept.